And I should preface this and then I'll let him go crazy. We asked Loren to join us today because I don't know if folks remember in the spring after our last group meeting, we had just sent out a question to the network at large about what are you interested in learning more about? What do you need more knowledge about? And a lot of people mentioned that they wanted to know more how to finish animals. How do you judge when an animal has been finished, to the right weight, the right quality, and really how does that impact the quality of the meat? And so, Loren, we are excited to hear what you've learned about this whole process. And then I imagine Sam might have thoughts about it later on too. So welcome, Loren. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Cool. Yeah, so thanks for having me. It's always good to see so many familiar faces and friends and neighbors and meet some new people. So my style, especially on these Zoom calls, is to be really interactive. And I don't know how you want to handle questions, Courtney, or Coco, but you can just blurt them out. As far as I'm concerned, interrupt me and blurt them out. There's only like 10 of us or 15 of us on the call, so we can have, make it as interactive as possible, and it makes it a lot more fun that way for me. I have a small presentation that I'm not sure I know how to do on here, but let me look and see if I can if I could actually share. Oh, it looks like I can share, but it's more just an introduction about me and what we do for those of you guys that haven't met us before. And the truth is, grass finishing is a little bit of an art, a little bit of a science, a little bit of luck, and it's really not that hard to know what you got to do. The hard part is doing it, and managing it and doing the dance to be able to get it right and being able to afford to do it and all those things. So like, it's really easy to make really awesome grass-fed beef, but it might not be very profitable to make really awesome grass-fed beef. So, since most of us that do what I do are in the business to make money and live a good lifestyle and produce nutrient dense food, we just can't do that. We can't do it willy-nilly without paying attention to details, or we won't be here for very long. And there's I've actually talked to a lot of people on this call about this. There's so much contraction right now happening in our industry and in our space, where tons of little brands like mine and others are going away because it's just super hard to do business here, and the markets are so crazy, and the conventional markets influence the grass-fed markets. And frankly, it's a really good time to be a rancher. It's not a great time to be in the meat industry or the meat business. But as we know, everything goes in waves, and I'm looking at this as like, okay, well, I grew up on a ranch here, and I always heard my dad say, "Oh, goddamn middleman makes all the money. We never make any money." And my dad was in charge back then, and I was like, well, why don't we become the middleman too, or just keep our own product and sell it direct to consumers? And that's pretty much what we've done. So let me see if I can figure out how to share this thing. I think I can right here. Can you guys see this? Can you see that? Or no?
Yep, we're good.
You can see that sign that says Stemple Creek, right? Or that thing that says Stemple Creek, right? Let's see now. Slideshow. Can you see that?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, cool. So this is actually our old logo, because I'm not that good at doing any of this technological stuff. My daughter was telling me today, and Tom could probably run circles around me on this and say, all I have to do is tell AI, Snap GBT or something, to like make me a PowerPoint, and it would do it way better than what I do. But anyway, I'm not there yet, and I probably won't be there. But this is where we're at. Our main ranch is in Marin County, right north of San Francisco, which actually is an amazing pastoral area. We're seasonally, we're in a basically a Mediterranean climate. So half the year we're super green and lush and gorgeous. The other half of the year we're dry and brown, and it's hard to finish cattle there. So the way we manage our operation is we move the cattle around just like the bison would have moved around, or the wild herds of animals. And certain times of the year we're in different pastures. So a lot of the cattle are in Tamales year round. A lot of them, we usually take like 400 or 500 up into Hat Creek between Mount Lassen and Mount Shasta. And they get finished up there on Henry Giacomini's ranch. And then we have some pasture up north in Humboldt County as well. But we're pretty nomadic. I kind of go anywhere where there's green grass. And it's mostly California and Oregon, but I have had cattle in other states too, but it's mostly California or Oregon. There's 5 generations of Poncias. This is actually one of the most cool pictures that we have of our family and our legacy. The guy in the bottom, the top picture, but the bottom right corner is Angelo. That's my great grandfather. He came from Garzano, Italy in 1897. And he was actually moved to the house that I'm standing in, that I'm in right now, which is our main ranch house, which we just remodeled. It's got a badass kitchen and it's like a good fun place to have parties and farm to table dinners and stuff like that. So if you're ever in the neighborhood, swing by here. We'd love to entertain you. So that's Angelo. His son is to the left. That's Alfred. And then the top right is my dad. That's Alfred Loren. That's the guy with the black hair. And the little baby is me. That's Loren Angelo. So there's a really cool legacy here that, frankly, I got bitten by the bug of ranching and farming, and it made me really want to do it. It wasn't like I had to do it. I just really wanted to do it. And I love the story, and I live the story every day. So the picture below it is me and my dad with the 2 empty chairs. It's pretty symbolic, of ag and regenerative ag and everything that's happening right now in the world with business and transition. And now we're actually in a new transition now because my dad passed away last year. And so now it's like, what happens next? I'm pulling in my sister's kids and my kids. And, I'm not a young agriculturalist anymore. I've always been described in the community as, oh yeah, the younger generation. Well, I'm 50. Guess what? That's old. And that's old in the ranching world, in my opinion. It's like becoming average or young for average, but we need like the 21-year-olds or 25-year-olds like I used to be, just wild and rabid for wanting to be a rancher. We need that now. So I've been focusing a lot more on how can we pull people in that are the younger generation that can do this for me. Because I really frankly have I want to have my succession plan done in 5 years. Like I want to know what other people are going to run this business in 5 years, and start giving them the reins to do it, and be there to support. So that's kind of exciting. I grew up in a very conventional business where we sold loads of cattle to anybody on the planet, that had green money. And we would try and make 3 loads or 4 loads of cow calf pairs of calves that we would sell to the highest bidder. And sometimes they'd go to Harris Ranch in California. Sometimes they'd go to Lyman, Colorado, to Coleman Natural. Sometimes they'd go to McGinley and Schultz in the Midwest. And we would get the data back on the cattle every year. And the cattle did really well, carcass wise and quality wise. They did really well in a feedlot environment. But about 30% were getting sick and 3 or 4% were dying. And I was like, what the hell are we doing? Like, why are we doing this when the cattle we keep at home are not getting sick and dying? And frankly, I think it tastes better. It's better for the animals. It's better for the humans. And so like, why wouldn't we just do this? And we weren't making any money. We were making 10 cents more a pound than if we were just doing it conventional. With the never ever programs and stuff, we're making like 10 cents more, which is not enough unless you can have thousands of animals. So this is actually one of like our claim to fames and something I love to show. But this is my parents' window, looking out the front window at Stemple Creek. And this is my playground when I was a kid. And this was normal to me. I was 10, 12, 15 years old. This is what the creek was. And in my mind, this is what the creek always was, because that's all I saw. I'd never seen anything different. The cows would drink out of the creek. They'd poop and pee in the creek. They'd eat everything green along the creek. When it would flood in the wintertime, you could see the cow trails. A massive amount of erosion would happen. And it was just not what we wanted it to be. My dad actually started partnering with schools and fenced off all the creeks and planted thousands of trees. And within about 10 years, we saw it start to heal. And now it looks like this. So when you look back, it's just like blows your mind. This happened in my lifetime. So I was like 16 in this picture. I was like, 40 in this picture. And so 1990, 2010, and 2018, those are taken at different times of the year. So our fields aren't green like that year round, but it's just a really cool, stunning picture. So I like to show that, and I am going to talk about grass finishing. But I think it's important to know who you're talking to for the people that aren't here yet. So we try and protect all of our, or never been here yet. We try and protect all of our riparian areas like this. So this is in the early winter, after we've had some rain, the grass is growing, but we're not grazing it yet. All our riparian areas are very well fenced, and there's usually lots of residual there. And then we will graze them as we need to, as we want to meet our ecological goals and dance. But we don't just continually have access to them. So now we call ourselves regenerative farmers. It's kind of a buzzword that, we've been doing this for a long, long time before regenerative was a claim. But we have it on our package and it's a claim. We're certified organic. All our ground is certified organic. About 600 of our animals are certified organic. We actually sell organic beef to maybe 5 or 6 grocery stores. The rest of our cattle are just regeneratively raised, grass-fed, grass-finished. And a lot of them I buy from other ranchers around the state because we only have 600 mama cows, and those are all, they all fit right into our organic program. Unless something falls out of our organic program, it gets a blue ear tag and it can go into our grass-fed, grass-finished program. But some of the goals we have: build more soil for our kids and grandkids. Like, I'm really excited about making this place better for my future generations than it was for me. We've already done that, like, in a tremendous amount of ways. And we're planting trees right now that aren't even going to be semi-mature for 100 years. And I get all excited about it when I think back to like a legacy. I want a legacy. I want a badass legacy of like one of my future grandkids or great grandkids or great great grandkids. Like, who planted these trees? And they would think back, like, man, Uncle or Grandpa Loren or Uncle Loren was a really kind of visionary in terms of planting these trees, knowing they're going to grow and create habitat and sequester carbon and just be beautiful, years and years ago. And like, when we bought the ranch next door, I asked the old timer that we bought the ranch from, I said, when's the best time to plant apple trees? And he said, 20 years ago. Because everything grows so slow around here. It's a cool season area that the apple trees just take a long time before they start making fruit. And so I started planting them right then. And I have about 25 apple trees now. Every year I want to plant another 10 apple trees because I just love having tons of fruit. And I love the concept of like other kids. I remember climbing pear trees when I was a kid, and these rickety old hollow pear trees that probably my great grandfather planted. We'd eat all the pears off of them this time of year. And we never knew who planted it, but I think it's just cool. So the other thing is we want to market super high quality food. We want to make our pastures more sponge-like so they hold water with carbon. And really, this is something that we overlook a lot. But we got to be profitable. We have to be profitable like any other business, because sustainability doesn't really mean anything if we can't afford to stay here, if we can't afford to keep our employees, we can't afford to house our employees, and our employees don't ever see the future of like being able to retire. So right now at Stemple Creek Ranch, like, our employees get full health benefits. Our employees get a cost share, like a matching cost share program on their 401k. So like I think we match 3 or 4% to whatever they put in. And I think it's cool. I worked in conventional pharmaceutical type business for years, and they took such good care of me. It was really hard to leave. And I don't know anybody in ag that either can afford to or wants to or can do some of the things that we're doing. So it's exciting to do that. And it's a fun place. We don't have a lot of turnover because people like to work here, and we like to be super honest and transparent and have a quality brand. So this actually ties into the grass finishing piece, but photosynthesis is what we do every single day. So this is a picture in the dry season. You can see the rest of the hills around us, and that's one of my favorite plants called chicory. It's still green and growing, even in a seasonal drought. It's still green and growing, and photosynthesizing and pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere and pumping it into the soil like liquid carbon. So I'm literally pumped up about that. And I like to have lots of forbs in our pastures so that we can finish cattle year round. And I kind of dream of our whole place looking like this. I'm also a big outdoorsman. And right now, like all my neighbors are like, there's no deer. What happened to all the deer? And you look at our place, we have 10 times the amount of deer that we had 10 years ago because they left the neighbors and they come to our place because we have green grass. So it's like, if you want deer, you have to give them something to eat. It's like food, water, shelter, and guess what? They'll come. Like if you build it, they will come. So it's again a biodiversity thing. And we try and run big groups of cattle. They're mostly all black-hided cattle. We have a few reds. I have one red bull out of 12 or 14 bulls that I have right now. One of them's red. But I like the red Angus quite a bit. And then the regenerative ranching scheme it's working for us. Like if you look at this fence line, the neighbors on the left, we're on the right. We graze this way more animal days than they do. They set stock the whole place. I'm not showing you this picture to like make fun of them. I'm just showing the picture to be like, whoa, management is a big deal. You can grow a lot more things by just paying attention to what Mother Nature wants or doesn't want. I'm trying to see what you guys can see. So we're just paying attention and we're like dancing with Mother Nature. It's like you step on each other's toes, you dance differently the next time, or you get a new partner. I always say that. And it's so true. If you go back to your dating days, it's like you start stepping on your partner's toes, you're going to get a new partner. So we do lots of tours and events to educate people and show them what we're doing. We like to be totally transparent and honest. So we do about a tour at least once a month, open to the public. But then we do a lot of tours, like probably weekly. I give 1 or 2 or 3 tours to, chefs, restaurants, grocery stores, individuals, family foundations, all kinds of stuff. And then if you've ever been here, this is my happy place, sitting in front of the grill, cooking, and usually drinking too, but cooking and having a great time and meeting new people and basically sharing high quality food. So this, but I'm going to try escape. Say stop sharing. Yeah, cool. Now you can see me again. Woo. How much of a dork I'm like looking at the screen, but so is there any big questions that you guys have? That can they type the questions in, Courtney, or just blurt them out so that I make sure everything? We have about another half hour together.
I'll blur one out.
Yes, sir.
To get the forbs and more of the native forage to develop in your pastures, did you do some seeding initially, or did all that come back in on its own? And what was the transition like there?
Mike, I remember meeting you in Nevada, right? Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad
I'm still hound dogging you.
Good, yeah, I love it. I'm glad we're connecting, and I hope we connect more. And I hope you when you get one of those good properties in Lassen, you can tie up a deer for me to come harvest. So no. So the way that we've done it is I'm not very patient. So if you like read the savory books and you read all of the books, basically say if you graze correctly, all this stuff's going to come, and you can stimulate your latent seed bank. Alan Williams has been here 5 or 6 times. Gabe Brown's been here 3 or 4 times. Like all these guys, your latent seed bank has all this stuff, and I'm like, you know what? We're farming on subsoil that, like, the Irish guys, not the Italians, the Irish that first came here screwed it all up and farmed it, and it all went into Tamales Bay. So we're farming on subsoil. There, I guarantee you there is some natives here, but the introduced perennial forbs to me are way better and I see results right away. So I broadcast seed, I feed seed to the cows because that's nature's way of broadcasting it. I no-till drill it, I put it in the compost. Like if we have bare soil where we move the cattle in the middle of winter, or we had cattle in one pasture and it rained, 3 inches overnight and we created mud, we throw seed on it. And that's pretty much what we do. And you know what we need. And then the other thing that we try and do, this is the hardest part, is we try and let those plants express themselves and go to seed. So like chicory, if you go around my ranch right now, some of you have been here, you go around my ranch right now, there's purple flowers all over and it's gorgeous. It's pollinator habitat, but it's chicory that's going to seed that hopefully is filling into the seed bank. And then the cows eat that too, and they poop it back out, and that's how they spread seed. But the truth is I have way more plants and seeds that I don't like than what I do like, like foxtail. Like 10 years ago, I used to try and outgraze foxtail all the time, or overgraze it. And what I realized is we're overgrazing everything else that we want to. So now I ignore foxtail. And I would say, my dog, well, knock on wood, my dogs have not gotten a foxtail this year. And I have 2 yellow labs and I have 3 cattle dogs, and I have 5 guardian dogs for the sheep. And I knock on wood, I haven't been to the vet yet for a foxtail. We still have a shitload of foxtails, but we have a lot of other stuff that grows through. So the foxtails are earlier maturing, like early season, there's tons of green and it's foxtails, and then they go to seed, and then all the other stuff comes right up past it. So I'm just trying to manage what I want, not what I don't want. I don't know if that answered. Any other questions? Okay, so feel free to blurt out, but so the whole purpose of today's thing, talk that they asked me to talk about is about finishing and how to finish and what is finishing and like grass fattening. And to me, there's 3 secrets to grass-fed beef, and you've probably heard me say it before because it's not very secret, but 1 is good genetics, 2 is good groceries, and 3 is time. Now, managing all of those things to get them right is not always easy. And cash flow wise is not always easy, because like I have 18-month-old heifers or steers that are 1,100 pounds in fat, and I want to kill them right now or harvest them right now because I want to turn them into money. It's a $3,000 bill walking around in the field. But what we've always focused on, and you've probably heard in the community, is like Stemple Creek Ranch is known for high quality grass-fed meat, not just lean red meat. And so we're far from perfect at it. We're still learning every single day about how to do it. But it really comes down to those 3 things. And patience is probably the biggest one, because just a big old fat steer that's 18 months it might be Select Plus or Choice Minus. But if you let it get to 26 months, it'll probably be Choice Plus or Prime. But it also, that's the balance. What can you afford? What can you afford and how can you afford it? Because right now it's costing me a tremendous amount of money, way too much money to make grass-fed beef that I buy from others. Because just look, I don't know how many of you actually understand the market or look at the market or trade in the market, but I'm in the market every day, buying and selling. Like I probably buy $3 or $4 million worth of cattle a year. So I'm like small compared to the big operators, but that's a shitload of money to a kid from Tamales that grew up with, we didn't even generate that much revenue. We generated 120 grand a year in revenue when I was a beginning rancher. So anyway, I buy a lot of cattle. I'm in the market all the time, buying the right kind and being able to keep them for the right amount of time to be able to afford to be able to turn it into meat to sell it to a consumer is a big deal. And it takes a lot of foresight and paying attention, just like the pastors. Like you have to pay attention. I see so many people in our space that I've talked to a couple of people. I think I've talked to let me look at this thing. I've talked to Angler I've talked to Angler, I've talked to Mike, there's somebody else here that I've talked to that's just getting started. And I'm not saying this is you when I use this example, but there's so many people that are like doing this, but they don't know what their yields are. And they don't know what their live yield to dead yield to retail yield is. And how you can't price your product until you know what your live yield to your dead yield to your retail yield is. And guess what? Here's the dirty little secret. It changes every single time, and it changes seasonally, and it changes, so you have to pay attention to those numbers, or you could be better off. And this is what I see this routinely. You could be better off selling the animal live at an auction barn than you would be turning it into grass-fed beef, going through all of this pain in the ass of marketing it, freezing it, holding inventory, making sure your USDA plant does it, eating the broken packages, like all of those kinds of things. I've lived it for 15 to 20 years. Like some days it's better to just sell them live. And that's a lot of my conversation with Michael Dimick and other people with Roots of Change is like, people need to get educated on this, because it's a very rough, steep learning curve if you're not paying attention to that. And so when I see people selling grass-fed ground beef for $5 a pound, I'm like, well, either they know something about this industry that I don't, or they're losing their ass, frankly. And I hate to say it like crude like that, but that's like the truth. Or they're just desperate and they just want to work really hard, because it's not necessarily the best way to make money. So I told you the 3 secrets. I think I mentioned that we dance around up and down the state to wherever the green grass is. I'm very nomadic, so I bet we've grazed. Well, just here in Marin and Sonoma, we graze 8,000 acres in Marin and Sonoma that I manage, or me and my employees manage. And then some of the other, like the desert up outside of Hat Creek is 25,000 acres, but that's where mama cows are. And then the irrigated is down on the bottom. That's about 600 acres of irrigated. And then Humboldt is another 500 acres of irrigated. But I've had cattle at one time I've had cattle in 10 counties. And I kind of think about it, I was like, well, maybe what would it be like if there was no fences? Where would the cattle be? And that's kind of a savory question, but where would the cattle be if there was no fences?
Question for you.
Oftentimes ask myself that, where would they be? They might be up at Mike's place. Yes, sir.
Loren, do you pay for weight of gain? Do you pay by day on the land? How do you structure that, where you're on somebody else's land and you're leasing, or they're grazing for you?
All of it. I do all of the above, and depends on the year. What I like to do is pay by the gain, because if I pay by the gain, it's pay to play. Like you know what you're paying for. And the other thing is, I have way too much feed in the wintertime. I bring other people's cattle in here. And some of the people where my cattle go in the summer, I bring their cattle here in the winter because it's too wet there, or it's too snowy there, or whatever. So I'll bring 5 loads of their cattle here, and then they'll take 5 loads of my cattle there. And so we kind of say, hey, let's just say $1 a pound of gain. That's not the real number, but let's just say they come here, it's $1 a pound of gain. They go there, it's $1 a pound of gain. I know for a fact I can put 400 plus pounds of gain on in a season here, because I've been doing it for a long time. Those other places, depending on the class of cattle and how big or small they are, and the weather and the forage and how they manage, we get on big cattle, we get 1.5 pounds to 1.75 pounds a day. And then so you do that math, you back into it. Like right now, do the quick math. I don't know. Are you guys okay with me talking about the economic stuff, or you just want to talk about how to make grass-fed beef, like Courtney and Coco? Because I can go down a pigeonhole of this.
No, this is great. This is great.
Okay.
Hey, we
Okay, so
appreciate the economic stuff at Sweetwater. You talk about that all you want.
I missed what you said, Sam.
I said, tell him this is whatever.
Sorry, yeah, no, preach, brother, preach.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm learning, but I'm just using round numbers right now. Okay. So let's just say, I like round numbers because, well, and I'm also a big fan of ranching for profit. If you've not been to ranching for profit yet, I'm a big fan of doing it. I know I told Mike to do this. Have you been yet, Mike?
Not yet.
Ranching for profit? Okay. You can't talk to me again until we speak the same language and you go back to ranching for profit. No, it'll blow your mind and change your life. It's a great school. And every rancher should be required to do it, in my opinion. And I'm not a require kind of person. I don't ever say, oh, you're required to do this. Like, I'm not that kind of person. But it'll change your life for the better. But so let's use round numbers. I hear people saying this all the time. I sold my calves for $2,000 this year. My baby calves, 700 pounders for $2,000. So if I buy them for $2,000, it's borrowed money. Right now, my interest rate on my operating line is 9.85, something like that. A year ago, it was 4. So now it's 9.85. So that's a significant difference. So if I have to keep that animal from June to June for it to get finished, I paid $2,000. I'm gonna have it for a year, so I'm paying $200 in interest. So I'm in them for $2,200, and I pay a pound of gain of, let's just say, $1. And if they gain, well, if they were 700 pounds and they gain another 500 pounds, I mean, I'm another $500, right? So now we're 2,000 plus 200 plus 500, we're in them 2,700. Before we trucked them to the kill plant, before we paid the harvest fee, before we did all of those things. And so now you can see, like, we're in these things for, $3.60, $3.70, $3.80 a pound on the rail before we cut into them and make steaks. And then we pay, 55 cents a pound to cut into them and put them into a box. Then we have a fabricator cut into them and make them into steaks. It's $1.80. All of a sudden it's like, it's costing you $8, $9 a pound for ground beef. And it's costing you, depending, everybody's scenarios are different, right? But you have to know this stuff, is my point. One kill plant that I work with has a 55 yield from carcass to retail. One kill plant that I work with has a 70 retail yield. One kill plant has like a 68. And different species are different. So we have beef, lamb, pork, chicken. I hate chickens. I eat 3 eggs a day for there's 3 less chickens, but chickens are profitable and people like them. You have chickens at Sweetwater? No, I don't know.
No, we don't have chickens. We did have chickens, but we also have dogs, and they don't always get along.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
we abandoned the chickens and we started messing with goats just to do land clearance.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, so
no,
my point about it, my point is not to preach. It's just like, you can't, in the ranching for profit school, they have this saying about what be versus Whitby. And most of us grew up on ranches. Maybe a lot of us didn't here, but if you grew up on a ranch, it's like you want to get out and work. And it's like you feel bad to be sitting in the house and not, working. And I grew up in an Italian, family. Like, if you're not out working, like, it's costing you money. It's like, well, if you are out working and doing a $15 or $20 an hour job, it's costing you a shitload of money, because you should be knowing what your true numbers are, right? And so we call it Whitby, working in the business, working on the business. And I'm a big fan of working on the business. So we structured our company now that we have a 1 hour a week call with me and my wife. That's only Whitby, working on the business. And we have an agenda and we run it like a real formal business meeting. And it's actually probably one of the best meetings of the week, because it helps point us in the right direction. And although I love ranching and doing the ranch work, I actually love that. I don't love having to do it every single day. So we have resources now that, I don't do very much ranch work. I make most of the calls about where what goes and how it goes, but I don't do a lot of the fixing the fences or I don't know the last time I vaccinated a calf. Probably 5-8 years ago. Once in a while, like this year, I probably branded 50 or 100 because my guys were branding them a little bit crooked, and it makes me look like a bad rancher if my brand is crooked. So I'm like, no, do it this way. You know what I mean? And they make fun of me because I messed up some too. But anyway, so understanding those yields are vital. There's no real, I mean, we've built it all and we've taught ourselves all of it. There hasn't been like a school that teaches you how to do a lot of this stuff. There's a school, but Ranching for Profit school, but there's not the meat company school. And hopefully, like Tom is working on projects with his software that maybe will make it turnkey so that all of these questions can be answered quickly and easily. And projections for what we do. The other part about Stemple that's intriguing and difficult and fun and a pain in the ass at the same time is my wife is from Southern California, and when we first started, she didn't know anything about ag. She knew about the food industry, and she said, we have to do this year round. I'm like, this is impossible to do year round, Lisa. Like, I can't raise high quality grass-fed beef year round. And she, well, figure it out because your customers want it fresh year round. So that's what forced us to figure it out, to do it year round. But guess what? It's super expensive to do it in the wintertime. And we raised our prices to a point that we make money in the summer. We make a lot of money in the summer, and we don't make very much money in the winter. And I tell my customers that, like, if you're with us year round. You're not going to just leave to go to some other grass-fed guy in the middle of July when it's peak season, because we're doing this year round. This is a commitment and a partnership, and we have to do it together. So that's a huge advantage to selling direct to consumers, which we do that too. We sell online. I think actually today, I gotta look at it because it was intriguing. I think we sold our 510,000th box of meat since we started Stemple. Today, it was like, whoa, that was so cool. 500, that like 500,000 boxes of meat. It's a shitload of meat, when you look at it, like, and a lot of work. That doesn't mean we made any money doing it, but we've that's a lot of boxes. So, yeah, that was pretty exciting.
Quick
Let's see
question.
what else. There has to be some more questions. Coco?
Yeah, quick question. This cost analysis, is this how you determine how many cows you're going to do organic versus you're just grass fed? Or is that based on other contracts instead?
That's a great question. So I would do way more, organics if it wasn't such a pain in the ass to do organics. Organic is a big pain in the ass. The paperwork is a pain in the ass. Everything costs more. A lot of the customers don't want to pay more. I had this real big conversation with a real big customer of mine this week about this, and they're like, well, you say you want to grow your business, which I want to grow our business, but in the produce world, organic produce is going up like this, and conventional produce is they're going up, but like organic is going up faster, but they're the same price. Like, go to a grocery store and it's like a head of lettuce is $4 and organic lettuce is $4. Sometimes it's cheaper, honestly. And they don't understand that, like, this is a 3-year commitment from the time this baby is born until the time we harvest it. It's 3 years of capital. Right now, I could go and sell these calves for what we established earlier, $2,000. Next year, I think they're going to be $1,500. The next year after, I think they're going to be $1,200. My rancher buddies, I'm a rancher too, so I'm first a rancher. My rancher buddies are like, oh no, it's going to be good for at least another 3 years. I'm like, well, guess what, guys? No, it's not. So you better harvest some profit, because it's like, when has it been good for 5 years straight? Like, never. Look at the graphs. Like, this is not a different time. We can say that it's different, but it's not different. And it's just like, the stock market, the real estate market, any of these things. they go like this, and the upside is not as great as the potential downside right now. You know, we're one black swan away from the thing crashing. The economy is not as good as we think it is. We had $22 trillion pumped into it of fake printed money. Like everybody was rich there for a while with COVID money. And guess what? All that's drying up. It's an election year, so things are going to be as good as they can make them. And after the election year, the shit's going to hit the fan, in my opinion, no matter who gets elected, unless they print a whole bunch of money again, you know, and start pumping money. And then we're just kicking the can down the road. It's going to eventually catch up. But in the beef industry, and again, I am not an economist, but this is my opinion. A lot of times, I don't think some of the reports, again, this is my opinion. I know this is being recorded, so I'll put it out there on Cattle Facts. I'm probably going to get hate mail, but a lot of my friends that are in the dairy industry are breeding 70% of their cattle to black-hided animals, bulls. And there's a lot of cattle that come from the dairy industry. I went on a tour to Montana last year to all the big bull studs, and these bulls are huge, huge bulls made just for semen for the dairy industry to grow these ginormous animals that finish early on grain, very efficient, and they get fat quick. And, you know, don't discount the dairy industry as a big factor in, it doesn't matter how many mama cows there we have in the US, because dairy cows, we can do this in 9 months, you know, boom, 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 boom. 9 months, a calf's born, it goes on feed, it goes into a calf ranch for 4 months, 365, 400 pounds, it goes to a feedlot for 365 days, it's dead. You know, we're talking 15 months, 14 months from birth to dead. And on our grass-fed thing, we're talking 3 years. You know, so I feel like I'm giving a sermon right now. I don't want to be like the bearer of bad news. It's just where I'm at, like what I'm thinking. And
Have you fed out any of these dairy stock? Are you able to gain,
I'm so deaf. Tell me that again.
I said the dairy stock bred to the beef bulls. Are you able to feed them out on grass and have them finish well, or are they only feedlot animals?
No, they're feedlot animals. I tried some Wagyus a few years ago because it was like during COVID, the cattle market took a massive dump and our demand was real high, and I was buying whatever I could. And there was a really good Wagyu outfit that was selling cattle for dirt cheap. And I said, sure, I'll buy them. And I kept them for a year and a half. They gained 400 pounds. They were so far from finishing. I put them in a feedlot, and I put them on grain for, I started harvesting some around 200 days on feed. And I was selling them for like $5,000, $7,000 for a whole animal. And I was making good money. I was making like a couple grand on these things. And then it was like $4 a day. Then it went to $5 a day to feed them. Then it went to $7 a day. So the last 4 I harvested, gave them away to my friends. And I think we might even had it at our Christmas party and, like, you know, cleaned out the freezers. Like it was funny. Stemple Creek grass-fed beef had a Wagyu grain-fed for the Christmas party because that's what I could afford to feed everybody because it was in the freezer. So
We've got a
yeah.
question from Ashley as well.
Yeah, I'm just curious to know, you've done such a good job of the direct to consumer. I mean, you sell your subscription boxes a high number. Are you still looking to increase your direct to consumer as a percentage of your overall sales versus, say, into the retail segment, selling wholesale? And if you are doing that, like, I mean, where do you find the sweet spot of, you know, how much to put into direct to consumer? Because presumably it's a little harder to market those things, or not, because your brand is, I think, really recognized as a direct to consumer brand. I mean, I would like to know where I can get your subscription box. Being in Ukiah, I'd rather buy your product direct rather than go to the co-op and not pay the, you know, margin that's on there. to be
Mhm.
honest with you. And then I don't know how you package your subscription meat. I personally would rather have the meat wrapped in butcher paper or something rather than have it in the plastic packaging. But I was just curious to know, are you still looking to put a greater percentage of sales into direct to consumer? And if so, how do you manage the work that's needed to do that?
So that's a great question, and I have never really like Lisa, my business partner, and my wife and I are dramatically different people, which is totally awesome. Like we makes a great team. Like I'm the more global, like thinking about what's this look like 10 years from now, and Lisa's like, boom, let's get it done, everything done today, and boom, 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 boom. So when we're working together, it's very effective because nothing falls through the cracks. We're not really working together in the business right now. She's doing her own thing. And I just hired, she's an attorney, so she's out doing her law stuff and some other projects. And she's still an owner of Stemple Creek, and she still gives input on Stemple Creek, but she's not in the day-to-day operations. I just hired a GM who's really awesome, and he does all of this stuff. And we've done a lot of soul searching and exactly what you're talking about, Ashley, because we're way bigger than we ever thought we would be, but we're also a tiny, not even a blip on a radar meat company. When you look at the rest of the meat companies that are around the world, yeah, we're like a $10 million meat company. That's like JBS does 50 million a day kind of thing, you know, or something like that. So, I think, I don't know the answer to this, but I think that in the future, we're going to lean in on the direct to consumer so that we can keep the margin for ourselves and that we can own our customers. And we're still going to keep doing restaurants and grocery because our partners in the restaurant and grocery space are really good and we make money on them. So even though we sell for less margin, we still make money. But if I could just snap my fingers and everything would be perfect, I think I'd probably be like a $4 or $5 million direct to consumer company and just live happily ever after. Then it would be a 10 or 20. I don't see Stemple as being like a $50 million, like a Nyman Ranch or something like that. I don't see that happening. But things happen. I mean, who knows? Maybe some big company would come along and be like, hey, we want to partner with you and we want to help you grow and we want to get more good meat into mouths all across America. I don't know if I would say no, but it's not like what's driving me. What's driving me is keeping honesty, transparency, quality, taking good care of our employees, taking good care of the land, taking good care of the cattle, and having a brand that we can like trust and be around. And the only way to really, like, if I look at, do I want my kids to own a meat company? But do I want my kids to own a brand that is really awesome, that stands for, you know, has integrity and stands for all these things, and still be able to make money, like the equivalent of, you know, a real job, you know, not just like scraping it by, then I think that the direct to consumer is the way to go, probably, because we can never compete. See you, Tom. We can never compete with, in terms of efficiency or price, with bigger outfits. Like we're always going to be more expensive, especially doing it in California. We're actually, full transparency, we're actually even looking at harvesting in other states right now, just because it's so much cheaper. We're not going to do that. And if we did, we're going to be very transparent about it to our customers, but it might be cheaper for us to harvest in Reno or in Idaho than it is to harvest in California.
That would be shipping your cattle across the border, process there, bring it back in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the
You
right
wouldn't be the
answer.
first business to do that.
No. I mean, putting our warehouse in Reno wouldn't be a bad idea either, because we
Right.
could pay Reno minimum wage and we can pay, you know, and all these kinds of things. So, but there's it's a whole nother business, Ashley. It's like marketing. It's like inventory management, it's like, fulfillment. We've used 3PLs before, which is 3PL is a third party provider that, third party logistics. Where basically we would take the orders, we'd push the orders over to them, they would fulfill the order for us. Horrible, horrible. It's never something I want to put my name on. Like, they'd be like, a ribeye would be, I mean, somebody'd order a ribeye and they'd get a chuck roast, or, the package was leaker and, freezer burned, or, looked like it got kicked across the floor of a warehouse. Like, no, I don't want to do that. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that we're going to lean into direct to consumer. We're probably going to increase our species diversity mix. So we're going to do more chicken, more beef, more pork, more lamb. 5 years ago, I didn't do any pork. Now I'm probably going to kill or harvest like 500 pigs this year. So I don't want to touch a chicken, but chickens are pretty profitable. 8 weeks from the time they hatch to harvest. I mean, that's hard to ignore that. Pigs are 6 or 7 months from when they are born to harvest. Maybe 8 months in our operation. Lambs are 6 to 8 months. Cattle are really ridiculously expensive. Goat meat. Chefs, Kathy says, what about goat meat? Chefs are getting into it. Go for it. You live in goat capital of California down there. It'd be perfect. All that coyote brush and poison oak, the goats would do amazing. I don't want to touch a goat either, Kathy. I know there's you do a great job with goats. And I like eating goat, but I just I'm 50. I want to be winding down in the next 5 years. Find somebody else to bring in these new enterprises.
That's great. Well, I think we're about there.
704 already.
Yeah, that's great. I have before we thank you and jump off, 2 small business items to share with everyone. Next week is our last of these sessions for the summer. And actually, you might be interested in this too. There's a UC Cooperative Extension built this tool to help match people with available grazing lands with producers. And so it's called matchgraze.com. They're going to come show how that works. And so, yeah, there's opportunity there for people to connect. That's next week. And then the other thing we want to make sure everyone gets on your calendar is our our in-person meeting on November 18th. It's going to be the last one of this project, but a lot of great things, a lot that we've accomplished, things we still want to do together. We were going to give a preview of the agenda. I don't think we have time for that today, but we should be sending out information and reservation information about that within the next week or two. So November 18th, hope to see you all there. And Loren, that was great. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Yeah.
I'm still learning. Everybody, if you got good ideas, bring them my way. I want to learn. So thanks for everybody being here.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.